You're at the dinner table. She's laughing at something he said. You're there but not seen. You could shatter the glass in your hand. And still, she would not flinch. Because you don't burn, you don't ache, you don't possess. She feels safe with you because she knows you won't conquer. But that safety is not respect. It's the dull comfort of a neutered flame. The more you show you are unmoved, the more you disappear. Your calmness becomes the background noise to her primal stage. She doesn't fear losing you. She doesn't imagine you watching. And so she dances. Not for you, but for the one who bleeds when she leaves. There is no cruelty in her, only biology, ancient and indifferent. Her instincts search for territory, and you offer open borders. You never raise a flag. You never guard the gate. You mistake passivity for mastery. But the wolf that never growls never keeps the mate. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo. Like the video. Leave your shadow in the comments. Subscribe and stay near the silence. She feels safest with the man she knows cannot wound, but safety without fear breeds contempt, not devotion. You make it too easy. You hold the door open, step aside, smile as she walks past. She tests the bars, finds none, and assumes the game was never real. No keys, no threats, no locks, no consequence to betrayal. You think that's love to offer your throat as if it cannot be cut. But she was not built to admire peace without risk. Her blood remembers the jungle. Her instincts sharpen against resistance. And you are soft, not tender, not sacred but dissolving. Like paper in rain. She tells you everything, not out of trust, but because she knows it costs her nothing. You never raise your voice. You never leave the room. You call it emotional strength. She calls it predictability. The lion does not confess its whereabouts. It stalks. It waits. It punishes. She craves that scent, the unspoken possibility that you might disappear, that you might not forgive her, that your love has edges, but you are round, you are safe, you are furniture. She keeps you close, the way one keeps a childhood blanket, frayed but familiar. She doesn't throw it away, she just doesn't wear it when she wants to feel beautiful. You're the voice she plays in her head when she wants to feel right, but not alive. And the more gentle you are, the more you vanish. Not because she hates you, but because you gave her nothing to fight against. You gave her no myth, no force to respect. You caged yourself in softness and called it loyalty. But loyalty is not the absence of threat. It is the presence of power offered with restraint. You removed the power. You presented your neck and said, "Strike me if you must." And she believed you, and she tested you, and you never roared. She insulted you at the dinner table. You laughed it off. She flirted with him in front of you. You called it confidence. But something inside her shifted. The archetype crumbled. The protector became a pet. She does not want to harm you, but she cannot surrender to a man who would not wound to protect her. She leaves the room longer each time. Her silence grows teeth. You ask if something's wrong. She says no. You smile. You nod. You tell yourself you are not controlling, that you are evolved. But all she hears is this: you do not care enough to intervene. You would let another man take her and still say, her choice. She tests you again. She dresses for someone else. She posts the photo and watches you. But you don't flinch. You tell her she looks beautiful. You hand her the match and the gasoline. And when she lights the fuse, you applaud the fire. She wanted your jealousy not because she wanted to be owned, but because she wanted to be valuable, desired, watched. And not by the world, by you. Not the you who smiles and accepts, but the you who hides behind walls you never let her touch. The you who forgets to breathe when she smiles at another. The you who might break something in silence, just to feel it. But you locked that version of yourself away. You thought it was too dangerous. You thought love should never hurt. And so, it never mattered. You were not a cage. You were a hallway. She walked through you to remember who she was, and then kept walking. She doesn't cry when she cheats, not out of cruelty, but because she knows you won't collapse. You've made your lack of possessiveness your identity, and she honors it. She betrays you in ways you'll never feel, because she no longer believes you are a man who feels. You are a cloud. You hover. You never storm. Even when you suspect, you retreat. You analyze. You forgive without confrontation, and she loses even the guilt. Not because she's evil, but because you taught her that pain cannot reach you. And what cannot be hurt cannot be held. Your numbness was your shield. Now it is your prison. She dreams of men who would shatter glass for her, not to control her, but to remind her that some things are sacred, that desire still has fire, that danger still walks on two legs and says her name with heat. She wants to feel unsafe, not in body, but in soul. She wants to wonder if your love has limits. She wants to know she matters enough to break something inside you. But your love is infinite. You say, it forgives all, it stays. And so she leaves. She leaves not for someone better, but for someone she must tame. She becomes softer with him not because he is kind, but because he is dangerous. He could leave, he could rage, he could vanish without warning, and so she studies his moods. She memorizes his rituals. She kneels, not because he asks, but because she fears the altar might close without her. She laughs more, she cries more. She becomes herself more because he brings out the ancient rhythm in her blood. You, the kind one, become a ghost. You watch her through a screen now. She posts a photo with him hand on waist. Eyes defiant. You comment, wishing you happiness always. She doesn't reply. Not because she hates you, but because you are no longer real. And even now, you refuse to feel. You call this her flaw. You say she couldn't handle maturity, but in truth, she could not survive the silence. The love that never grips, the man who never growls. You made her feel safe, and that is why she left. She did not want a cage, but she needed to know there was a door you would close behind her, that you could want her enough to say mine, without saying yours, that you had blood, not just philosophy, but all you gave her were open hands, and the absence of pressure became the absence of worth. She will remember you as a kindness, a quiet she could never fear, and in that absence of fear, she forgot to love you. You were the man who never locked the cage, who called it freedom, who wondered why the bird never stayed. When you never show jealousy, you become a reflection without fire. Her desire dies in your indifference. She stands in front of you in a dress she didn't buy for you. You look up, smile politely, and say she looks lovely, not ravishing, not unbearable to resist, just lovely like wallpaper, like a compliment printed on a receipt. She tilts her head, half hoping to find the flame in your eyes, the flicker of primal hunger, the wordless pull that makes a woman feel like the center of destruction. But there is no spark, no danger, no disruption. You smile like a waiter, and she suddenly feels more alone than if you had left the room entirely. You call it respect. She calls it vacancy. She turns slightly, pretending to adjust her earring, watching your eyes, waiting for them to burn. They do not. They reflect, coolly, safely, as if she were your sister, as if you were immune. You mistake this calm for mastery. You believe love should be clean. But what she sees is your soul behind glass, untouched by her storms. And a woman wants to be a storm, not just to be adored. but to be capable of disrupting you. You never flinch. She shows more skin. You nod. She mentions another man's compliment, and you grin like a monk. She confesses to texting her ex, and you say, as long as you're honest. But you are not honesty. You are absence. You are the man who feels nothing, or at least pretends to. And in that performance of nonchalance, you murder her reflection. Because desire requires distortion. She wanted to see herself twisted inside you, reflected in your ache, your jealousy, your inability to sleep when she is touched by someone else. But you give her symmetry. You give her acceptance. And she feels like smoke trying to seduce a marble statue. At first, she admired you, your detachment, your philosophical calm. She told her friends you were the emotionally intelligent one, but secretly, she waited for you to break, for the mask to slip, for the moment she might say something dangerous and watch your composure crack. She tried. She mentioned the co-worker who texts at night. You nodded. She said she once kissed someone while you were apart. You thanked her for the transparency. You even said you appreciated the communication. She wanted you to scream, to clench your jaw, to leave the room, even briefly. But you stayed, still, emotionless, like a therapist who stopped charging. And slowly, she began to look in the mirror and feel invisible. Because a woman knows she is beautiful when she is disruptive. You said you trust her, but trust was not the word she needed. She wanted to be dangerous to you. She wanted to feel like a spell you could not control, a force you couldn't meditate away. But your love is bulletproof. Zen, it absorbs impact, and so she throws harder. She drinks more when he's around. She laughs too loudly at his jokes. She touches your friend's wrist a moment too long. You see it. You say nothing, and something inside her dies. Not because she wants to cheat, but because she wants to matter. You think jealousy is childish, primitive. You quote Stoics. You suppress. You play the long game. But love is not a chessboard. It is a wilderness. And when a woman enters your cave and sees no scars, no weapons, no blood, she wonders what you've been surviving. She tests you not to humiliate you, but to find your limits. She needs to know what you cannot handle, because only then can she locate your soul. But you pretend there is nothing you cannot handle, and she sees that not as strength, but as vacancy, a ghost in a man's clothing. She cannot belong to someone who feels no pain, and so she becomes the pain. She flirts, she provokes, she dances too close to the edge, hoping you'll finally bleed, hoping your breath will quicken, hoping you'll say, I want you, and I don't want to share. Not because she needs control, but because she needs reaction. And you have none. You become the blank mirror. She dresses for battle, but you never draw a sword. She leaves clues, but you never follow. You think this is love evolved, but it is love extinct. Even her betrayal feels meaningless, not because she's cruel, but because you taught her that nothing you share can truly be lost. You convinced her that there is no such thing as taking you from someone, because you are always available, always accepting, always emotionally regulated. You are the man no one must earn, and therefore the man no one remembers. She looks back at old photos and sees a ghost standing next to her. You were always there, never moved, never burned. She cannot recall a single moment when you interrupted her with urgency, when you pressed her against the wall and said, "You're mine tonight," when you ruined your schedule to follow her scent, when you made a scene, just once. You made no scenes, you left no mark, and she, who once wanted to be devoured, now feels like a snack you forgot to finish. She may not say it aloud, she may even stay, but she will begin to dim herself, not because she is bored, but because her fire cannot live in your ice. You never melt, you never erupt, and she needs eruption. She needs to know that if she walks into a room holding another man's hand, your world tilts, that she is not replaceable, not because you say so, but because your eyes betray you, because your voice shakes, because the mirror breaks. But you keep the mirror polished. You never let it crack. And in that perfection, she finds her reflection has disappeared. So she turns away, she tries chaos, she paints her lips redder, she dances on social media, half naked, praying that someone will feel something. You say, you do you. She hears, I don't need you. And so she leaves, not always in body, but in spirit. She begins to light fires elsewhere, not because she's malicious, but because she can no longer find her reflection in your glass. You reflect the world, yes, but not her hunger, not her madness, not her femininity at its sharpest edge. You are a gallery, but she wants a flame. And jealousy, when real, is that flame. It says, I see you, I want you, I fear losing you, but you fear nothing. And so she feels like nothing. She becomes your friend, your roommate, your spiritual partner. You meditate together, but she stops dressing for you, stops asking what you think, because she knows what you'll say, whatever makes you happy. And it is in that sentence that she finally breaks, because she never wanted just happiness. She wanted to be a siren, a force that pulls you from shore. But your ship is anchored in detachment, and your sails are folded, and the sea, in her, begins to dry. She may enter and rest, but she will never belong to a place that no one defends with teeth. You built her a garden, every path swept, every thorn trimmed. You watered the flowers, lit candles along the stones. There was never a raised voice, never a slammed door. You gave her the kind of sanctuary you thought all women wanted, safe, peaceful, predictable. But the more she walks barefoot through it, the more she notices something missing. No growl, no shadow, no warning signs that say, here lives someone who would bleed for this place. It's beautiful, but it's hollow. A garden with no beast is not a home, it's a museum. She can admire it, but she cannot surrender to it, because somewhere deep in her oldest bones, she knows if no one guards it, it can't be sacred. She tests this. She walks in at midnight reeking of unfamiliar cologne. She leaves messages unlocked. She picks fights with her silence. You always respond with the same gentle smile, the same practiced patience, but you don't smell the danger. You don't bare your teeth. You don't want her like something you'd kill for. You've convinced yourself that real love means no possession. But possession is not always cruelty. Sometimes it's the only way a thing can matter. A flower no one guards gets plucked by strangers. And you let it happen. You look away, then say it wasn't yours to begin with. She wanted to be protected not from the world, but from her own temptation to destroy. But you offered no fence, no bark, no resistance. You let her stand on the edge of betrayal and never pulled her back. You believed in her freedom more than you believed in her danger, and so you underestimated the storm, not her body, her chaos. She is not evil, she is not unfaithful, but she is waiting to feel that she belongs somewhere so much that someone might throw themselves between her and the wolves, even if she is the wolf, especially if she is. And when you refused to defend her, even from herself, she knew this garden was just a resting place, not a kingdom, not a territory, not a grave worth fighting for. You think your calmness is noble. You think your unconditional acceptance makes her feel safe. But what if it makes her feel alone? You do not rage when she tests you. You do not track her scent when she disappears for hours. You say, she'll come back if she wants to, but beasts don't speak like that. Beasts hunt. Beasts guard. Beasts don't offer ultimatums. They claim, not through ownership, through devotion. You, the modern man, fear being too much. And so you became nothing. A walled garden where she can rest her feet but never plant roots, because there's no threat if she leaves, no wind, no storm, just the same soft voice saying, I support your choice. And that, to her, sounds like you were never worth chasing. She walks farther each night, not away from you, but towards something with weight. She wants to feel the vibration of footsteps when she strays. She wants her choices to matter, but you taught her they don't. Not because you don't care, but because you refuse to show that you do. You believe expressing jealousy is weakness. She sees it as witness. You never witness her, you record her. Like a still camera, beautiful, cold, unfailing. And when the other man shows up, the one who flirts like a fire, who leans in too close, you stand back. You say, I trust her, but she doesn't want trust. She wants reaction. She wants you to put your hand on her back and say, we're leaving. She wants you to stare at him the way a wolf stares before it kills. Not because she needs violence, but because she wants to know that your stillness has a limit, that your peace is not indifference in disguise. She wants to know this garden means something to you, that you'd mark the trees, that you'd drag your claws through the dirt if someone touched what you loved. But you smile, shake hands, let her linger near temptation and call it confidence. But confidence without risk is just apathy. She can't live in a place where her soul doesn't echo off the walls, where she could scream and not wake the beast, where she could cry in another man's arms and return to your silence. You won't stop her, and that's why she goes, because deep down, she doesn't want permission. She wants tension. She wants sacred boundaries, not because she wants to be caged, but because she wants to know someone would guard the gates. That if she wandered too far, your voice would roar through the forest and remind her you belong here. But you whisper, do what you feel is right. And that sentence erases the soil beneath her. She doesn't want to own you. She wants to be worth the effort of guarding. And you never let her feel that. You let every test slide, every flirtation pass. You made the garden too open, too polite, too forgettable. She will look back at it one day at you, kneeling in the flower bed, gentle, composed, trimming dead stems, and feel a sharp sadness. Not regret, not hatred, just sorrow. That you were the only man who never demanded to be chosen. You waited for her to decide, and so she never felt chosen either. You both floated there in mutual freedom, waiting for gravity, but gravity never came, because you refused to create it. You feared control, so you refused presence. You feared jealousy, so you refused heat. And she, starving for wildness, left for the woods. She found it. Not better, not safer, but alive. The new man did not speak softly. He burned, he raged. He held her wrist too tight and said, you drive me insane. And for the first time in years, she felt wanted, not complimented, not supported, wanted. And you watched her story from afar, still in the garden, still watering, still waiting. You won't understand it. You'll think you were kind, and you were. You were gentle, you were thoughtful. You gave her everything except the thing that proves everything matters. The beast, the roar that shakes the trees when she strays, the eyes that narrow when someone else reaches for her, the unspoken edge that says, I will never hurt you, but I will not let you go without knowing what you mean to me. You were never cruel. That was the tragedy. You were never a threat. You were never worth fearing, and therefore never fully loved. You were a garden, open, quiet, beautiful, but no beast howled from its depths. And so she wandered, searching for the echo of a man who'd fight to keep her soul from slipping into the trees. There's a path at the edge of the garden where her footprints vanish. You water the roses. Still. You light the candles. Still. And in the windless silence, you wonder if anyone hears the way the petals fall. A new man steps into the clearing. He doesn't kneel. He doesn't smile. He breaks a stem in his fist and she turns to look. You see it happen, not with anger, not with longing, but with the heavy ache of one who finally understands you were never hated, just never feared. And without fear, she was never truly yours.